So you're pretty much the connector, right?
If EMDR and Reiki had a baby, if
Old self is gone, she's dead.
you need so much blind trust. Worst case scenario, we'll find home in uncertainty.
Hi everyone, my name is Margarita Graf and this is Purpose in Action, a podcast for people who feel a pull towards something they can't quite explain yet. Today I'm sitting down with Katelyn, a spiritual advisor to the living, a friend to deceased, and a poet. She found her gift not as a child, but through loss. Through signs she kept ignoring, and through one mentor session that changed everything. Now she's the mentor, and her story is exactly the kind this podcast was made for. Let's get into it. Hi, Katelyn. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's such an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So please tell us, where are you from? Where are you based? Where are you in the world right now? And what does life feel like in this chapter?
I'm currently in Charlotte, North Carolina. This chapter in my life feels like a whole lot of uncertainty, but this is arguably the most I've ever worked. Like this year, I have had my head down. I have been making things happen, and it's definitely one of those seasons where you're putting in all the work and you're not sure how exactly it's going to turn out, but you're hopeful that it's going to turn out amazing.
I get it. I'm feeling kind of the same. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. So you describe yourself as a spiritual advisor to the living, a friend to the deceased, and a poet. The last one is very interesting. So how do all three of those live in you at once?
I'll focus on the poet aspect first. I love metaphors. Poets love metaphors. I think that our human existence is one continuous metaphor that we're living. And I think all poets bridge two worlds together. And that's what I do. I bridge our living world and the spiritual world together. I think poets romanticize pain. All humans do that. And I'm so focused on love and death, as most poets are.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't grow up with an obvious I see that people moment, right? So the gift came later through a painful ending, as I know, through signs you kept ignoring. So please tell me the whole story.
So yeah, now we're talking like 8, 9, possibly even 10 years ago. I'm not even sure, but I had a death moment. I had it felt like I was dying, even though my physical vessel was not. I was very much alive, but everything didn't feel like mine anymore. My life, the things that I had been doing, the choices that I had made for myself, even as far as like the job I was doing. And I so quickly felt like everything not only was in misalignment, but everything was going bad. And so I had everything going bad, everything going wrong. At the same time, I had no concept of self. I had no idea who I was, what I wanted. I had no idea what anything meant. And as most people do, when they feel so lost, they feel uncertain, I had called out to God and I was like, please just use me, what I'm here for, or I cannot continue on in this life anymore. And that's why I tell people, you got to be very careful what you ask the universe for, because the universe, if said with such deep meaning and conviction, the universe makes it happen. And that rebirth, that death moment that I had, that came from such a painful heartbreak in so many ways. That was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. Spirit fully stepped into my life, as far as me hearing voices, as far as signs all over the place. I like look back and laugh because I went out of my way to ignore everything. I mean, like, I remember this one moment I was getting into my car and I noticed a penny sitting on top of the hood of my car. Okay. And I was like, and pennies are usually symbolic for spirit. Pennies, nickels, dimes, anything like that. And ignored it completely. I was like, this isn't happening anymore. I drove to where I needed to be, got on the interstate, everything. I parked, got out of my car, and noticed the penny was still on the hood of my car. Like, just really extreme signs that, like, you can't argue with, but I was doing the most to argue with it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that your story aligns perfectly for the viewers of this podcast because, you know, I think when things like that are happening, we're feeling so lonely
Totally.
and we're thinking we're going crazy at some point. So you describe the path to psychic development as ugly, lonely, and full of doubt. So what did that actually feel like from the inside, and what made you keep going anyway?
I honestly, the best way I can describe it, it was so painful. I use the analogy, right? That poetry aspect, that when a snake molts its skin, it's so painful for the snake. That's why they're a little testy. You don't really touch a snake while it's molting. It's uncomfortable, but it doesn't stop the snake from doing it every 6 months. And at that time in my life, it felt like my bones were literally being ripped out from my body. Like, I felt so uncomfortable. But that time in my life was probably the most I had just complete blind and delusional trust and faith. I was so certain that I was leaning into what I was actually here on this earth to do. And that level of conviction and certainty made it all worth it.
Wow. As I understood correctly, so the pain wasn't just emotionally, it was also physically, right?
It's when emotions, you're experiencing emotions so deeply, there's a physical aspect to it. When it's like, it's so uncomfortable when you're going through that rebirth, like you literally just want to crawl out of your skin. You feel so uncomfortable in every aspect of your life.
I
And
can
that's what
tell.
happens when we face ourselves, face our darkness, face our shadows, face our programming, our patterns, our families' patterns. That's really hard work.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm smiling a lot. It's just because it resonates with me. I'm considering myself more as a phoenix. I would say I even have
I
a
love that.
tattoo of him here.
I love it. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and those cycles of rebirth are not that funny as, sometimes we're reading someone else's story and we're like, oh, that sounds super powerful. Yeah, but we don't know what's actually behind all of this. And I remember how I was trying to help myself anyhow, and then I realized I need to find somebody to help myself who went through it. And I know that in your story, it was also a chapter of finding a mentor was a turning point for you. So what happened in that first session that made everything click? What shifted, or how long it took you to feel those shifts?
My experience in that's a little different. I actually never had a formal session with my mentor. I met him at a workshop where he was talking to a group of people. And I was actually a little late. And so I showed up after the class, after the talk show had already started. And the only seat that was still left was directly next to him. So I sat next to him as he's leading this conversation. I'm asking him little questions on the side, probably so annoying for him at the time. But all the questions the way that he was answering these questions, I already knew the truth. So it felt like so much confirmation for me at the time. And then after the workshop, he was talking and mingling with the people who showed up. He came up to me and he said, "You know, you're different." And I tell people that was finally the first time in my entire experience of the awakening, of all the work that I had been doing, that I finally no longer felt different. And we exchanged phone numbers, and he called me and he was like, "I think I need to mentor you." I had already done a year of my own work. I went through my own initiation. I spent a year of just research and development and learning and classes and books, and completely, I had no friends. I had no social life. Like, I was on my monk shit 100%. So when I found him and started to work with him, I already had that basic foundation, and we started mediumship, which is usually unique. You tend to, typically, I try not to speak in absolutes, but usually you do psychic work first, psychic development, and then you build into the channel of communicating with dead people. But we just went straight for dead people.
Got it. This sounds very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And quick question, what do you think after you got this confirmation and then you spent a whole year of the research, and then what point did you go from "I have this gift" to "this is what I'm here to do"? Because I know there's, this point of rejection sometimes arise. So was there a moment of decision, or did it just become naturally yours?
So it was actually a swapped experience for me. Before I met my mentor, I was having dreams that I was able to control with people that I knew were dead and were there to give me messages. Out of the blue, after those dreams, I just started to say, "I know I'm here to be a medium. I know this is how I'm supposed to help people on earth." That's where I ended up going to the talk shop, because I was telling my family, I'm like, I want to become a medium, which I laugh now, because to think, like, it's such a funny thing to be like, I want to do this, even though I have no idea what it means, but I know that was spirit. Anyway, my mom's the one who found that talk shop where I eventually met my mentor. So I knew, I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. Then through my mediumship mentorship, okay, that's when it started to become real, when I was like, oh shit, this isn't just a theory, this isn't just a desire, a want, like, this is actually something real. That's when a lot of doubt started to come in for me. And when my mentor asked me to join his team professionally, to start working with him, I actually said no. Yeah, I know. It surprises most people. I said no. It actually took some convincing. Now I understand that I was operating from a witch wound that I was carrying with me from past lives. I say, once a witch, always a witch. Once a healer, always a healer. I've done this work in this world before, and I faced persecution. And when I started in this life, starting to come into that space of doing it again, I had so much fear around it. And my mentor helped me get into this very deep meditation. And he advised that I negotiate my contract with spirit. Let them know, if I'm going to come into a professional partnership, if I'm going to work for them, let them know what I want. I went into that meditation, and the only thing I had asked for was for them to keep my sister safe. I said, I will do this work. If this is what I'm here to do, I will do this work. My only requirement, keep her safe. If something happens to her, I am not doing this work anymore. And I always thought about that, like, what in that moment where I could ask for anything, I always found it in that state of meditation, in that state of channel. That was the only thing I had asked for. And then years later, when I really started to work on my witch wound, I went into a past life and recalled a life where I was working as a healer. This, a very long time ago, and I was taking money away from the church. And the church came looking for me. They didn't know exactly who I was, but they came looking for me. And my sister took the fall for it. And they executed my sister for my I'm gonna cry. They executed my sister for my healing work in that work because it was so important for me to continue on. And so that's why once I came back into that work, I had so much fear. And that's why my only requirement is that my sister remains safe. That's it.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. It was very emotional, but it shows a lot your kindness and that first of all you're living your purpose and thinking of others, right? And the ones close to you, and you're just feeling it as a calling that you have to take care of them. Wow, because you're taking so much responsibility. It's not easy. Not everybody can go through it. So
totally. And when I made the decision, after I had told my mentor's name is Ed. After I had told Ed, I was like, I don't know. It was a big no for me. It took a couple months. It took a little bit of convincing. And I had the conversation with myself, and I was like, Ed has changed my life so much, has helped me change my own life so much. If I could help one person the way that he has helped me, it is worth any scrutiny, any persecution, any, people chasing me with pitchforks. I don't know, it's worth it. That alone is worth it.
Of course. And you know how people sometimes thinking that those things are happening overnight? It could, but behind all of this stay like huge decisions and the risk you're taking and being responsible for that. Because sometimes people are thinking that, oh, it's just in the material world, in the spiritual world, it doesn't exist. So Thank you so much for bringing this up. This is very important to highlight this topic, and thank you so much for sharing your personal story. That means a lot.
Too.
So I also wanted to ask you, I remember you once described yourself as a therapist for the soul. So people live feeling lighter. What actually happens in a session with you when people work with you, when you work with people, sorry. So what does the experience feel like from the inside? What does your purpose in action look like?
So each session is so uniquely its own, but every session starts the same, where I make an onset of connection to your energy, to see your emotional makeup, and then I allow spirit to do spirit's thing from there. I start looking around your emotional composition. I check your heart, I check your confidence, I check your work, I check your family relations, I check your friendship relations. I can get an entire sense of what's going on in your life without you telling me anything of what's going on in your life.
Wow, I love how you describe emotional composition. And I think it is very helpful and valuable, especially for people who doesn't know what's going on actually with them, because sometimes you're just running those same circles and you already no idea what's going on. So, and I have no idea what we're gonna do without people like you.
I had someone explain it to me where she had said it felt really nice just to be understood in a way of not having to explain the backstory, explain their understanding, explain their perspectives. There is a lot of power of just sitting with somebody and they already know the emotions, the whys, the understandings, your shadow. It is a very powerful experience. And then from there, after your emotional transition, that's when we start to pull from spirit guides, past loved ones. I use spirit just as that umbrella term. Any wisdom, anybody or anything I'm connecting to that is not of this world, it is coming from a different world, it's spirit.
So
Just
you
higher
mentioned,
wisdom.
yeah, you mentioned higher wisdom, spirit, angels, the past loved ones. What does it feel like to receive those messages? How does communication look like and feel inside you? How does it come through for you?
It's like the most, spirit speaks in subtleties. Spirit is very gentle in their communication. It's just quiet little pings that I have got to be so certain and so stable of where I'm at in my own emotional and energetic composition to be able to pick them up.
Wow.
I think, there's this idea that spirit doesn't speak the way that we as humans speak. Humans are very loud, humans are very indirect, humans are very intense, humans are very obvious. Spirit is very gentle, spirit is very subtle, spirit is very direct and to the point. So it's such a different form of understanding communication and like energy and emotion being its own form of communication, symbolism and metaphors being its own form of communication. That's why there's the saying, know thyself. The more you're so certain of who you are, your emotions, your own emotional and energy composition, the more you're able to hear spirit speak.
Thank you so much for this explanation. It's
You're so
absolutely
welcome.
beautiful. It sounds very gentle. You also use PSYCH-K alongside your mediumship. So, what is that, and why does it belong in your practice?
Love it. So I started 3 years ago. I started my own personal EMDR therapy journey. And EMDR has been so beneficial, so helpful for me that it got me thinking. I was like, oh, I wish that I could do this for my clients. But because I'm not a therapy clinician, I can't. That's just, there's no way around it. So when I was introduced to PSYCH-K, for me, it felt like if EMDR and Reiki had a baby, if you're familiar with Reiki. So I was getting the same benefits of EMDR with the energetic benefits of Reiki, and it was something that I could go be trained in and do. So in its simplest form, PSYCH-K is an updating of limiting beliefs that exist within our subconscious. If we as humans subscribe to the idea, we attract what our subconscious believes to be true. We can consciously think, like, for example, I am worthy of love. But if we subconsciously are operating in that place of scarcity, operating in that place of love is for everyone else but me, there's going to be a block in the attraction. So PSYCH-K updates those subconscious beliefs that I am worthy of love to just help the individual begin attracting what ultimately they desire.
Wow, thank you so much. I love everything about subconscious, and thank you for bringing it up. And I wish everyone could just taste it. But the mix you just described, like, sounds absolutely brilliant.
It really is. It's a beautiful practice. It came to the creator from spirit in a vision, and it's a really special sacred modality.
Thank you so much. So you're also a mentor yourself. I've learned it through Brooke when we met, and Brooke is one of your students, and she credits you with training her psychic gifts. What does it mean to you to pass this on? What do you look for in someone you mentor?
I've done a lot of programs in the past. This is why I said this is the most I've worked probably all my life, because I'm in active mentorship with 3 apprentices. This is the first year that I've done this. They came to me, they sought me out. Something that I look for in an apprentice, in a student, is hunger. I was so hungry for everything metaphysical, everything spiritual, everything subconscious, that I, at the time, sacrificed a lot for and still sacrifice for, and I am happy to do it. That is the hunger that has built everything I've built up to this point, and it is a hunger that is still not satiated within me. It is that hunger that cannot be taught to people, and it is a hunger that is required for people to really lean into this work. There is no way around it. So the people that I'm working with now are very hungry, very dedicated to learn and to help people in their own way and to make sense of themselves. I love teaching. And I love knowing that for me, I mean, anything is possible. I can't imagine that I'm going to have children of my own. So as you get older, you consider legacy and what it means. And these students that I'm teaching, they are a matter of my legacy, because then they'll go on and they'll teach people who will then go on and teach people. And then if enough people have taught and learned, we have completely changed consciousness. And as we collectively step more into spirituality and people are looking at alternative healing modalities, I feel like I have such a responsibility to the community that I serve here in Charlotte to know that I am putting out other reputable, other conscious, other readers who are in high moral, high standard, high ethics, and that makes me feel good, because unfortunately that's not always the case.
Got it. But it all sounds like it meant to be, like how you began, that they found you, it's just,
Yeah,
something toward bigger mission, I guess.
I like to think so. I think it's not that I've ever seen Star Wars, but I think there's a quote in Star Wars that's something like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I just trust that.
Right.
I just trust that. In the same way I found Ed, I know that individuals who are meant to work with me, they will find me.
When I read this book for the very first time, Autobiography of Yogi, with that quote,
Yes.
I was like, had this hunger, as you said, to find my teacher. And I was just like, waiting for that moment. And I couldn't find anyone for 2 years. But I still, time to time, was coming back to that book. And that was a great reminder. And to be honest, when that happened, it was just like right on time.
I love it.
So yeah, it's very amazing. Thank you so much for reminding those beautiful moments. So yeah, sometimes our human mind just thinks that we know better when is the perfect time, but sometimes we don't.
It's, force versus fate. I think humans, one, they love their suffering, and 2, they're impatient, and spirit is very slow sometimes.
It seems like to us, but I think they have a perfect plan.
Absolutely.
Yep. Is there a session or a moment with your client or student that cracked something, that opened something in you, that was reminder of, oh, this is exactly why am I doing this?
I say this when I first, let me preface this answer. I say this with complete graciousness and humility and gratitude, but it's those moments when people come back and tell me that their life has changed, or I've changed their life, or I helped them put themselves in a position to completely change their lives. Because as I had said already, that's the whole reason for me to do this, is to help somebody change their life in the way that Ed helped me change mine.
It's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And for someone who suspects they might be intuitive or empathic, I would say, but doesn't know what to do with it, what will be one thing they can start with today if they're not really recognizing this calling, right? But something in them telling them that, okay, this is resonates a lot.
I have God, universe, spirit, oneness, God, like however you want to identify it. Higher being, higher source, however you're connecting to whatever is bigger than this current world, go and talk to them. I tell people, go on I call them quiet walks, no music, no audiobooks, no stimulation, okay, no phone. Go talk to God. Go talk to God on a walk. Go talk to the universe on a park bench, okay? And ask God, ask the universe, ask spirit to start showing itself to you.
So first step is pretty much to be open, right? To start this dialogue.
This is where I tell people, it's like you're asking somebody to call you and you're not answering the phone. We have to pick the phone up. We have to be able to have the receiver to our ears if we're asking for spirit to step in. This is our way, your way, to hold the receiver to your ear. Start having the conversation, and start having those conversations as often as you can. I spend the day in conversation to spirit. Yes, I work professionally with spirit, so I am in communication with spirit in a professional setting daily. But even in my personal life, I am in active communication to spirit. Whether they hear me, whether they don't, I don't know, but I'm talking to them. So when they talk to me, I'm already on the phone line.
That's absolutely beautiful. It sounds like two-way direction, right? It's not just like coming from one side.
100%. Now, even though we had just talked about in a session, spirit speaks in subtleties, there are times when spirit is not so subtle with their messages. You got to be on the phone for it. That's why we meditate, okay? It's to not always receive information from spirit in meditation, but we meditate to clear the channel, clear the phone line. So when spirit's ready to call us, we are ready to receive.
Okay. Okay. And you said that you're ready to be on the line and you're talking to them consistently. So how do you stay grounded when you're constantly bringing two worlds together? And what does your own practice look like?
My grounding practice is a lot of showers, a lot of baths. If my mind's all over the place, if I'm overthinking, I can't conceptualize, I'm having a hard time processing, I go stand in the shower. There's something so grounding for me about water. I have to remind myself that it is a nature element and that it makes sense that it grounds me, but it is very, very grounding. And there's this spiritual idea that water is holy and nothing negative, nothing evil, whatever can penetrate water. So it also provides me a comfort knowing that I'm completely safe in the water. If I need something a little extra, I'll incorporate some salt scrubs, some clearings in that way. I love a spell bath, but I take multiple showers, baths a day.
I truly believe in that, especially now through this another Phoenix phase. For some
Yeah,
reason, I've been spending so much time in my bath. That's the only thing which is really grounding me down, but that was not really consciously. I guess it's just, the need
100%. It's
of my
so
body.
grounding, and there's something so like with bathrooms sometimes being a little closed in, that's comforting too. Like 100%. It feels so just safe and cozy.
Wow, yeah, like I love how you described that it is safe. It actually feels like it a lot. The water is just clear and pure, is just amazing.
Mhm.
Yep. So, okay, back to the topic we already touched. So you said you did all of this, the hard part, the loneliness, the doubting path, and also now you teach others, right, how
Mhm.
to go through those moments of life. So they can heal, they find peace, remember who they really are, remember the feeling of unconditional love. So, where does that level of commitment come from in you?
The level of commitment for me helping people.
Yeah. When
That's
you
a,
understand that they're finding you, right? But
mhm.
how do you understand? Is there like an indicator in your body or in your soul telling you that, okay, I have to go through this path with that person?
Um, I think it just feels so aligned for me, and it feels so good. And if somebody comes to me once again with that hunger, I'm going to help feed it. It's the best way that I can work with that analogy. I'm going to, because I use the analogy, the radio doesn't take credit for the song that it plays. The work that I do, even in education, it has nothing to do with me. I am being a conduit of source, and I am helping people come closer to the way they know God. And that is, like, to call that special or powerful or holy or sacred. I just feel like it just doesn't fully encompass the meaning of
Beautiful.
that.
So you're pretty much the connector, right?
I'm the connector of two
Direct
worlds.
connector.
I try to explain to people, I'm a liaison between this world and the world we can't see, and I'm the
Right.
liaison between your old self and your new self and everything you want to let go of and everything you want to become. Yes.
Okay, let's say if somebody understands right now, sitting and watching this, that the old self is gone, she's dead, right?
Yeah. RIP.
And yep, and the new one still, in the phase of rebirthing. So we don't know what month is it now.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person who's been getting signs like feathers, numbers,
Hmm.
dreams, right?
Yeah.
Something they cannot really explain to themselves,
Yeah.
but they still keep like talking themselves out of it.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think when we're in that limbo state of being in between two selves, we're not our old self, but we're not our new self yet. In that limbo phase, you need so much blind trust. And I know people hate when I say this, but when they're like, "How can I trust? How can I know that there's certainty?" I'm like, who cares? We can't care about that right now. We have to learn in that limbo of selves to trust our intuition above everything else, because that's the point of a limbo. That's the point between those two selves, is for us to grow into that intuition. So it doesn't matter if it's all fake. What does it matter if you're making it up? It doesn't matter. Trust it, lean into the intuition. Blind delusional faith. The human experience by design is an act of creation. This world was created. We were created to be here. Everything is done in an act of creation in the human experience. We are meant to create whatever life we want for ourselves. There is no concept of doubt. There is no concept of uncertainty. I've never read somebody's soul contract and saw a failure clause for them. There's only ascension. There is only growth. There's only everything that is meant for them could be for them if they allow it. So really that uncertainty, that doubt is all human. It's absolutely a part of the human world, but we don't have to buy into it any more than we buy into the other perspective. But for whatever reason we do. We do. We love the doubt. We love the uncertainty. We love the scarcity. We love the, it's not for me. I'm crazy. What's everyone going to think? We love that shit.
Subconsciously or consciously?
Maybe even both.
Right. But, totally agree.
But we are here to ascend, and we are here to create whatever the fuck we want. That's why we're here.
Thank you so much for this beautiful and powerful message. It's just like, I don't know how to explain. I think another power is also in explanation, those like massive things in the simple words. I'm just
you're exactly right.
Speechless.
No, you're like actually 100% right.
Still processing,
It's one of my human design gifts. My major human design gift is to simplify occultic knowledge for human conception. So yes, my gift is to take very broad spiritual theories, spiritual concepts, occultic concepts, and to make it so simple. There's power in simplicity. It's really not that hard. Humans love to make it hard because we love to suffer and we love to constantly move the goalpost on ourselves. But you are exactly right. My gift shows up in simplifying.
Wow, that's super great because, sometimes we really need to hear like literally, you have to trust. It's not negotiable, how you said. You just have really to blindly trust, like as you said.
It's blind, it's delusion, it's whatever. It's really like, and I laugh because I am no different. I'm also having the same human experience everyone else is, and I know firsthand, worst case scenario, will find home in uncertainty. I fully understand that. But who are we without also believing in the magic of this world? Because there is a lot of magic here.
100%. Totally agree. So let's say if someone is watching this and something in them is quietly saying, I think this is about me. So what do you want them to know?
If somebody's like, I think this is about me, and what do I want them to, that they're not crazy. They have to know that. They're not crazy. They are actually everything opposite of crazy. They are intuitive. They are sensitive. They are psychic. They are gifted. They are empathic. They are everything opposite of crazy. And it is essential for them to come into it. In fact, knowing, especially that I am coming from a witch wound, as all spiritual beings carry, okay? Anytime I showcase my work, my profession on something like this or anything similar, I do it as a way to pay homage to those who had come before me, who couldn't do it, who feared persecution, who opted for death, who practice in silence. I do it to pay homage for them, but I also do it in hopes that somebody else will see it and be like, oh my gosh, that's me, and then also step into it. Because when I do it, it allows other people to do it as well, which then allows other people to do it as well. So I just want to make the whole world very witchy.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm finding it very, very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. all of this magic with us today. So I was wondering, how can people find you, book a reading with you, or a mentorship, or explore working with you?
I love it. My website is staywitchy.love. Everything they need is on that website. My Instagram, staywitchy. That's really it. I'm an Instagram girl, so.
Great, great. I'll put all of this information below the video in the description. So please go and find Katelyn to follow her. Also, please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. So, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much for being my guest today. It was such an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Until next time.
Bye.